Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Michelle Beckering, Director of National Engagement for USGLC.
Thanks. Great, thank you, Liz. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Beckering, and I'm the Director of National Engagement here at USGLC. This year's theme for our Global Impact Forum really focuses on that nexus between global stability and American stability. And I can't think of a more apt conversation than the one we're about to have around the role of global food insecurity in fostering many of the crises and conflicts we're seeing around the world. And today, we are most fortunate to be joined all the way from Rome by an inspirational leader who is tackling this issue head on. And this is truly someone who doesn't need an introduction, but I'm really delighted to join virtually to the stage here Ambassador Cindy McCain. Ambassador Cindy McCain is the newly appointed Executive Director of the World Food Program. Ambassador McCain previously served as the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Agencies for Food and Agriculture and is a longtime friend of USGLC, previously serving as the chair of our USGLC Arizona State Advisory Committee. Ambassador McCain, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, Ambassador, as you well know, today we are facing a global crisis really of unprecedented levels. And we're talking about these linkages between hunger, between food insecurity, mass migration, and conflict. And what we've come to all realize is this humanitarian crisis of hunger, of starvation, it's actually now become a global security crisis. And as the largest vendor to the World Food Program, the United States has really stepped up around the world to address this issue. But we've seen that in recent years, it's really accelerated due to several factors. One being COVID, two being conflict, and third, changes in the climate. So much work remains, but we are so delighted that you are at the helm of the world's largest humanitarian organization that is tasked with feeding the hungry. And so we want to learn a little bit from you, even in the face of these daunting challenges. Now that you are newly in your leadership role, what is your vision for the World Food Program? And, given the reality, how are you going to tackle these challenges?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. And more importantly, thank you for talking about this particular subject. It is critical at this particular time. And the magnitude and the scope of this was exactly as you said, it's worldwide now. And it is an issue that we talk about in terms of it being a national security issue. Food security is a national security issue. WFP has two responsibilities in all of this. It's to save lives and it's to change lives. So what does that mean? Emergency food assistance, and we're all aware of what that means and where it takes place in crises, areas of crises, areas of natural disaster, areas of conflict. And it also, the other portion of this is, of course, changing lives, and that is resilience. Making sure that these people no longer need to be dependent on emergency food systems, but more importantly, can then sustain their own lives and grow their own food and improve their own lives. So we serve two worlds in all of this. And right now our priorities are funding, partnerships, and innovation. My vision for all of this is to make sure, with the lack of funds that we have right now, to make sure that we are a leaner, meaner organization. We do more with less, and more importantly, we improve on our innovation, our technology, our science aspects, everything to help other people help themselves, and that's why we're here. As David Beasley used to put it, he wants to put us out of business, and I agree with him. I'd love nothing more.
Well, and I think that's such an interesting way to put it, right? Because I'm not sure a lot of people think about, the World Food Program in that light, right? Where it's really this dual-hatted mission, right? To truly provide the food, the hungry need to survive. But to your point, you're really also working on the sustainability, right? And using these fundings and using these programs, to try to get to the root of the causes of this. And I think that innovation is just so timely. As you started to mention, I mean, there's a lot of challenges, so I think your own agency recently said that 2023 is expected to be a year of crisis. And 258 million people in 58 countries, right, are really at the point of acute hunger. But that's the facts, right? And we know that and we grapple with that. But what does it really mean? What are the challenges on the ground to actually get food to the hungry? What is it like, procuring the wheat, the supply chains? I mean, there's so many issues involved. What are the exact challenges that you're facing right now?
Well, any number of things. You mentioned, first of all, conflict, COVID, climate change. All of those are challenges right now. The numbers that you gave were certainly accurate, but they were last year's numbers. We estimate this year that there will be 345 million people that are severely impacted by food insecurity. It looks as if in Somalia we'll have 4.7 million as opposed to 3 million people. The areas of the world that are most impacted, of course, need the grains that we talk about, the absolute most. I was fascinated to hear, I got in on the tail end of the discussion with Ambassador Burns on the Black Sea Grain Initiative. The Russians are playing a dangerous game here. We are non-political organizations, so we can only give what we have and do what we can do. But the fact that they're holding grain hostage and they're holding hunger hostage is absolutely unconscionable. And so the fact that he was very right in saying our countries around the world have got to get pulled together on this to try to help, because the impact of that lack of grain is causing countries like the Sahel, areas like Sahel, countries like DRC Congo, Nigeria, Somalia, Sudan, Ethiopia. They're basically holding them hostage because we won't have enough grain, nor will we have enough money to supply the grain. And so we're in a very, very desperate situation on the ground. But what we actually do on the ground is we distribute food. We also distribute cash. Now, what does that mean? We don't hand out bundles of cash. It's done through a system that usually goes to cell phones to the women in the community. And the women are then the buyers. They can buy food on the local economy. That's another way that we impact. And then, of course, we help with resilience. All in all, though, what we don't want to do is continue to hand out. We want to start handing up, and that's really what we're trying to do.
I had the just really touching experience a couple weeks ago to go to Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya, and I got to meet with many of your fine team there and really look at what that food distribution is like. And I have to say that cash program has been game-changing in the refugee camp because, to your point, it's thoughtfully tailored. And when we met with the refugees, they talked about how it had changed because it gave them this sense of agency, right? It gave them this sense of, to your point, this resiliency to now feel like they were in control of their situation and having that. And it's just remarkable the impact that has had. So I know you've done a lot of work with Congress, and definitely food insecurity is an issue with strong bipartisan support. Recently, you led a bipartisan CODEL. Senators Risch and Graham were among those on it to Zambia. And I'm curious what sort of the impressions were and what you're hearing out of Congress from that. And knowing, as you said, that there are increasingly the linkages made to this issue and national security.
Well, first of all, it was a wonderful trip, and I was very grateful to be a part of it and to be able to take them into the field. It's one thing, as you said, to talk about it on Capitol Hill. It's another thing to see it, to smell it, to feel it. on the ground. And that's what I really wanted them to have the experience of. What they were able to see was not just the refugee or IDP situation there, but also see the resilience work that's being done. And so with that, we have a great program right now that the United States government is participating in, and it's called soil mapping. Now, what's that? Soil mapping will enable Zambia to better understand their soil, be better able to regenerate their soil. That means they can plant and feed themselves. That's a huge deal in that part of the world. And the members of Congress saw that firsthand, and they also saw firsthand the importance of the cash-based transfers. And just as you said, the integrity that it gives to people that are able to receive it, and the ability to feel a little bit empowered and also to feel secure. And so those kinds of things are much more powerful than just handing somebody a bag of food. It really is. So, and I look forward to, we've continued our discussions on Capitol Hill. Obviously, I'll be on Capitol Hill to, with my tin cup out, of course, but I look forward, all the members of Congress that I travel with are very knowledgeable on this issue, and they want to maintain what we are doing worldwide. It's important.
Well, on that note, most of us here in the room are actually going to be on Capitol Hill tomorrow. And
Yay.
yes, and so we want to be the message bearers for
Good.
you. So, give us your sort of elevator pitch. In all of our meetings tomorrow on the Hill, how can we most effectively advocate for the importance of congressional support for food security?
Well, if there's one message in this that I can offer, it's although Ukraine is very important, Ukraine is not the only place that there is food insecurity and hunger. So that's the first message I would take. We can't forget the rest of the world. As I said, there's 345 million people, that are hungry here. We have to do a better job in terms of working on the root causes of hunger. And so the resilience portion of what we do is very important. Last year, the United States gave $7 billion to USAID into WFP. And we were so fortunate to receive that. That was over half of what the world gave. So my job now is to not only continue to encourage the United States of America to be bold in what they do here and understand the consequences as could happen if we don't, but also encourage the rest of the world to step up even harder. And so that the message I would take is not only to encourage them, obviously from the U.S. side, but also to remind our friends in the EU and remind our friends, around the world that we need their help also. We cannot do it alone. And bringing our private partnerships into this, private sources for money. Government can't be the only end of this. It can't be. And so I'm making a real push through WFP to work on private partnerships and private funding.
Ambassador, as always, such great advice. Thank you for your leadership on this, and please consider us your advocates. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me. Thank you.